Hello, my name is Greg Wilson, and I'm a member of Hoosier Paranormal Research. And I'd like to talk to you today about an investigation that we did in Story, Indiana, at the Story Inn. And it was one of our first investigations that we did. We were a fairly new group at the time, looking for some investigations to do. So a lot of people have heard the legend of the Blue Lady. So we called the Story Inn, talked to Rick, the owner of the inn, and asked him if we could come out and investigate. He said, "Sure, come on out." He, invited us with open arms, and in fact, he gave us the whole place to investigate that night. And we spent the whole night there, set up our equipment. We had the Blue Lady room, which is legendary. Supposed to be haunted by a lady that they call the Blue Lady. You turn on this blue light in the room, and it's supposed to attract her. So we set up equipment in there, and also I think in two other rooms in the upstairs of the Story Inn, which the Story Inn, the history of the place is old. It was built in 1861, originally as a general store. And over the years, it burnt. I think around the turn of the century, it caught on fire and burnt down. But they rebuilt. I think they rebuilt it as a general store. And later on, I think the town itself of Story struggled, so they decided to turn it into a bed and breakfast to try to reboost the economy in the little town there, and it helped. So now it's a bed and breakfast, and it's a really cool place. Even if you're not a ghost hunter, it's a neat place to visit, spend the night there. Way out in the middle of nowhere. There might be, you might pass a half a dozen houses on the way to it, but it's in the middle of the country. Really beautiful area. But that night we spent there, two of us stayed in the Blue Lady room, two investigators stayed in one of the other rooms. And the rooms are named, I can't remember what the other two names are, but the Blue Lady, and then there was two other ones. But and we had the whole place to ourselves. Actually, we could even go outside the property and explore the barn out back. And the Doc Story's house is up on the hill there at Story Inn. The town was named after him, and his office. His practice office is still standing there, but it's a pretty dilapidated one-room building. The owner, Rick, says that his house is even haunted. He's had a lot of activity there. Dogs are spooked by something just about, every day practically. Love to be able to get into his house to investigate, but perhaps sometime we can. There's been stories of his office having activity in it. And the barn out back, been claims of some activity back there. But during our night there, in Doc Story's office, there was we did experience some activity there. We caught some strange light anomalies inside there. Unfortunately, we didn't get it on video. But we did record some EVPs in the inn that night. We recorded 3 EVPs in the Blue Lady room. And the strange thing of it is it's supposedly haunted by a lady. All 3 EVPs were voices of a man. So, not sure what that's about, but love for you to hear the EVPs. There's been a lot of claims of activity at the Story Inn, and one of our objectives as being a research group is to try to determine what is paranormal and what's not paranormal. And at the Story Inn, we heard a lot of the claims of activity there, so we went through the whole place, tried to debunk what we could debunk. One thing, and it startled me pretty good when it happened. I just had set up a camera and some audio equipment in the Blue Lady room, and I had left the room, was getting ready to go back to our base location, and everybody was on the other side of the building there. And when I came out, I heard what sounded like someone coming up the stairs. And if you're familiar with the Story Inn, there's 2 landings, and at the very bottom of the stairs you can't see. It comes up and then turns. Well, when I stepped out of the Blue Lady room, I heard someone coming up those stairs. We were the only ones there. Everybody had left for the night. We were the only ones. The doors were locked up. And it startled me pretty good that someone was coming up those stairs, because I knew where everybody was. And actually, I kind of turned to head back to our base location to get someone to come out so they could hear it. And I met Kenny, our other investigator, and when he saw me, he said, he was like, "What did you see a ghost or something?" Because my eyes was as big as silver dollars. And I said, "I think I just heard someone coming up those stairs." And he walked over there, and he heard it too, and it startled him as well. And then we determined what it was at that point, that there was an investigator in the room that was just adjacent to those stairs, setting up some equipment. And that investigator walking around in that room made the effect that it sounded like someone was coming up the stairs. So we debunked that, and there has been reports of noises coming from outside that area up around the stairs. So I think that's probably what people are hearing when they think they hear someone coming up the stairs, is there actually someone in that room there next to the stairs walking around. So, and also there was some high EMF readings in a room where the main source of the electricity to the Story Inn comes in the exterior of that room. So naturally you're going to get high EMF readings in that room. But we debunked some stuff, and there's some stuff that we couldn't. So that's pretty much where we stand on the Story Inn. We feel that the Story Inn is a haunted location.
But my name is Tobin Wilkerson, and this is
Luke Stone.
We're with Quest Research out of Indiana.
So how long has your group been together?
As a group, together we've been together a little over a year. Our team actually started from 2 separate groups that teamed up on an investigation. Our styles work so well together, we just decided to take the extra step and just make a team.
Cover more area, combine our efforts, combine our equipment, and just work better.
How many are in your group?
7 or 8 right now, I think. About 7 or 8.
Big group.
Currently, and we may have more come in because we're getting a lot more cases. We have a lot of residentials and a lot of big ones. We just got a case in Florida, and we had to hand it off to other people, and we had a case in like Nebraska, California. They're just calling them in, and we can't handle them, so we need to find other good groups and
farm them out.
Right. Yeah.
So tell us what your favorite paranormal investigation is so far.
Wood carvers,
Or
actually.
wood carvers?
Yeah, wood carvers in Converse, Indiana. So far been our favorite for lots of different reasons.
Yeah. Most places we walk into, it's, about 90% of the claims that you get, you can go in right away, debunk, come out with some sort of a normal explanation. You don't normally get a lot of activity while you're there. It's usually kind of quiet. We walked in there, and it was literally just moments, and things started happening.
I got there before him because he has a band, and he was playing a show about 10-15 minutes away, and we had stuff happening as we're setting up equipment, so I had to call him like, get here quick because things are already happening. And he was there in the next few minutes, and we set up right away. And it was just one of those places where you walk in and the claims are, you experience the claims. And it was.
So what kind of a building is this? Is it a
old.
shop?
It's an
Do you know when it was built?
old building. It was formerly the home of the IOOF in Converse, Indiana,
which is the International Order of Odd Fellows. The guys that couldn't make it into the Masons formed their own group and called it the IOOF.
And from there was a doctor's office there, lawyer's office. KKK building was there at one time.
They had offices in there.
And now it belongs to the Woodcarvers Club.
So a lot of history.
A lot of history.
Lots of history and lots of claims as well go along with that building. You go outside of the building and the whole town itself just looks historic, and it's a beautiful town. And you pull up to the building and it's just kind of amazing, because we did a lot of research before, and we have a researcher in our group named Hogan, and he researches history as a hobby and land and everything like that. So when it came to this building, he got extremely interested. He went and took pictures, did all the library research and everything, and you're just amazed at the history of this building and at the site of it, and once you get inside, it doesn't disappoint.
Yeah, I was actually on stage and I kept seeing my phone light up, and as soon as I got done, I picked it up. There was like 8 messages. The first one was, "Okay, Luke, we're here. Anytime you're ready, let us know when you get done." The next one was, "You might want to hurry. Some things are kind of happening." By the time I got to the last one, it's like, "Man, you need to hurry up. We're all here on the 2nd floor. Somebody's walking around on the 3rd floor. You need to hurry up." So I got in the car and I was there in 5 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what sort of evidence did you capture?
One
during
thing
that
we
trip?
captured that we had to throw out was an EVP. There was evidence of walking, the board squeaking when no one's in the room, and we did catch one of those. But unless I'm catching some sort of voice or weird sound, I didn't know if anybody was there or not. And we did catch the squeaking, but
There was too many questions to it, so we couldn't use it.
With a building,
there's a possibility.
Yeah, with a building that old and the wood the way it is, because literally you go on the 1st floor, it's been updated to an extent, but you go up those stairs to the 2nd floor, and it's like you're stepping back in time. The woodwork, the floors, everything, the squeaks are, for lack of a better word, authentic, and you get a building that old and the wind coming in, and it was really, really hot that night. So the expansion and contraction of the wood and the doors and the boards. We just had to throw that out. We did get some anomalous EVPs that were like I don't know, how would you explain
It's
it?
like a garbly speech.
Garbly speech and a digital.
Yeah, but it could have very well been, CB interference or something. We run into that all the time. Electrical interference. So we couldn't use any of that. One of the things we were able to, a great firsthand experience was, it was 90 degrees inside the building that night.
90 plus.
Yeah, we were sweating. It was hot. And we start walking down the hall, and we've been chasing a strange EMF reading that would kind of fluctuate, spike and then go away, spike and go away. And we got the K2 meter, was testing that out, and it kept peaking and going away. And we actually were able to trace that, and as it started getting stronger, this one part of the hallway, the temperature dropped about 10 degrees. We didn't have a thermometer with us at the time, but it was one of those where we're sweating and then we stop sweating. It's one of those where it actually got kind of a chill to the air. Yeah, it felt pretty good. Like
and then we were able to, it became like a cold spot near the ground. And it was, 10 degrees colder in that particular area, but there was also this ball of even colder air that was moving. You could put your hand down and feel it move, and then it was going down the hallway, and it actually went through my legs. I was standing there and I had shorts on, and you could just feel it. It was like a weird breeze, and it just kind of slowly moves through your legs, and it went through Matt's legs, and we followed it all the way down the hallway to when it disappeared. And the place where it disappeared is the spot where we have some video evidence of what we believe to be some sort of spirit or ghost walking out of a doorway and then disappearing. It's a concentrated spot, and the hallway is full of activity. Not only did we have those things happen, but there were multiple sightings of shadow figures. I mean, you would be standing there, and at the end of the hallway, you'd see a weird shape, and all of a sudden, it would just, it would run away from you. There's a little museum area that he happened to see the silhouette of a man just standing there.
It was a really cool experience. So we had Jay, one of our investigators, was watching the DVR system. He comes across on the walkie-talkie, "I need any 2 of you right now." So send 2 people over there. They check it out. Couldn't really find anything. He comes back, and I decide I'm going to go over there and sit with him, just in case it's like, just the building playing with his head or something. And so I go over there, and he's like, "Dude, it's still over there." And I'm like, "Okay." And this is the point where I can walk to the hallway, and I can see the room where everybody's at, and everybody's there, but I can also see down through the other doorway into this museum. And in this museum, on the very back wall is a window, and there's a street lamp outside. So everything that is there is illuminated. The silhouettes are illuminated. And I kind of glance over just to kind of assess, okay, where I'm going to go, thinking about what I'm going to do. And here's this figure, an outline of a man. And I kind of stop and I do a double take. I look back over. Everybody's still in the room. I look, Jay's still over there. And I do a complete turnaround, look right at it. My jaw nearly hits the ground, okay? Because it's
just standing there.
It's standing there and it's not moving. Most things last like 10, 15 seconds. This thing was like 20 seconds. I was staring at this thing, maybe longer. And then I look at Jay and I say, Jay, it's standing right there. He goes, I know, I've been trying to tell you guys, it's right there. And about that time it turns, you can kind of see the silhouette of the face turn around, and it sees me and then just bolts off. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't have a camera.
Right. And then he runs into the room. Guys, it's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And so we had to get up and go investigate. But we did catch, and it's hard to see in the evidence reel that we provided. We were walking into that hallway down towards that museum area, and we separate, and right in between us you see this figure, maybe 4 feet tall, bolt across the room. And we've taken that video footage and we go frame by frame. We use the Adobe Premiere to bring out the mini DV. That way we can do everything frame by frame, and you can actually see a head and shoulders and everything. And we didn't do that for some reason in the evidence reel. I don't know why we didn't do a frame by frame for it.
We slowed it down, and it was actually slower than a frame by frame. It was it just kind of moved across, but it was just so fast.
It's hard to see.
It's really hard to see. Even when you go frame by frame, it was kind of hard to see. We kind of point out in the evidence reel where that's at. But we didn't spend a lot of time on that one because we checked out the DVR, and the DVR actually offered up some better evidence that was much more indisputable.
Yep.
Nice. Well, let's take a look at that.
From that evening, we did capture some EVPs, but we had to dismiss them because of too many different factors. We did encounter a couple cold spots that we were able to track, only to dissipate at the end of the hallway.
It's right here.
Feel it?
It's not there.
Yep.
Is it moving?
Feels like it might.
Are you here with us?
Why is this so low to the ground?
I don't know. Could be a child.
It's a kid.
I feel a cold right here. A cold spot. It was right
Do you
there.
feel that, Matt?
Yeah, I did.
There's something moving.
Yeah, see it's warmer up here?
It's going down the hallway.
Yeah, it's moving.
Oh, hit my leg. I felt the cold breeze on my leg.
Oh, hey.
You feel it?
Yeah, I did.
Would you like to play?
It went right through both my legs.
Yeah, I felt it on my legs, and now the hairs on my leg are sort of just like you get
Hanging
the
on in.
goosebumps. I got the goosebumps. Can you talk to us?
Also, throughout the evening, there were several shadows witnessed by several different team members. We found here that one figure passed in front of us as we headed into the hallway. You'll notice at the other end of the hallway a figure about 4 feet tall quickly moved from one end to the other.
Okay, we're going to slow down this video clip about 50% so you can get a longer look at what we're seeing. Also, we're placing an arrow on the screen so that you can see the exact location of the activity in question. Now, pay attention because it goes pretty quickly.
The second figure was caught on the DVR system. You'll notice the figure step into the hallway, disappear, and then block the light. When reviewing the camera it blocked, there was nothing there.
We've zoomed in so you can get a better idea of what we're looking at. The arrow right now is going to point to something that you need to pay attention to, and notice the characteristics as it walks out and then disappears. Then the light from the other IR camera begins to be blocked. Keep in mind at this very moment, all of us were in a room having a meeting before we left the building, so everyone was absolutely accounted for. And here it is again. We'd like to bring in an image right now of investigators crossing the hallway. That way you get a good idea of the comparison between us and the image you've just seen. As you can see, the figures are clear and remain in frame until they move on. You also see the light from the flashlights. This gives us a distinct difference for comparison while reviewing this video. And though there are a few similarities, it's the contrast that leave this video image without an explanation.
Our evening at the Woodcarver building was an active one. It was a wonderful building full of history and mystery. Bob Freeman was a great investigator to work with that evening. His knowledge and experience was a great asset to the investigation. Quest Research leaves this building eagerly awaiting a return visit to one of the true haunted places in Indiana. Now, as you noticed in the video, that the figure, whatever it may be, walks out, and then it sort of dissipates on its own, and then you can see the IR light that's pointing at the other end of the hallway towards a door that we were trying to capture opening, which is one of the claims. The light becomes disrupted as if something's walking in front of it. We were able to watch the DVR in real time, and as this is happening, there's nothing stepping in front of that camera that we could see. So it's very interesting how it gets blocked out, yet there's nothing there.
You know, and that just is probably one of the coolest pieces that we've caught, and it's brought up some scrutiny. Some people, you know, they don't want to believe. Other people that are believers, you know, they're on it right away. We've had thousands of people look at it, and the thing is, you can't, we can't come up with a logical explanation outside of paranormal. So, right now, that's one piece of evidence that has to be paranormal. So, and here in 08, we're going to be going back to the Woodcarvers Club, and can't wait to go back and see if we can't maybe substantiate some of those claims, find some more evidence to present to you.
We have a better idea now going in where the hot spots are and what we'd like to investigate rather than being blind to it. So now we'll have a much better opportunity to do some things. So that'll be nice to get back in there. We do have some residential cases coming up. About 3 or 4 of those I think are set up right now, and we have there's an island in Warsaw, Indiana that has a house that nobody wants to go to, so we've been called in to maybe stay the weekend and find out why. So that'll be interesting, and hopefully we'll get that set up soon, and we bring everything to you on the, you know, the Ghost Diaries thing. And that's the main reason we do Ghost Diaries, is so that we can put the evidence and the information out there to the public in sort of a fun way to watch it and give us their opinion, because there are hundreds of thousands of investigators out there, and we need their eyes and we need their ears to tell us what they think. The more you have, the better it is.
We're also going to be going around to different cities, and we're going to take the urban legends. You may have seen the urban legends episode. We're going to take those and take 3 or 4 of those, and we're going to go and take our cameras and our investigative skills to it and try to find out if it really is haunted, if it's true, or if it's just an urban legend. So a little bit of a paranormal mythbusters, if you will. And
some Halloween myths. We're going to test out the Bloody Mary theory with multiple people and boys and girls and candles and bathrooms and mirrors and everything. We're going to do a few different things, hopefully, this year. And there's a possibility that on Christmas Eve, we're going to try to capture Santa Claus on film.
Just maybe, yeah.
That's
so
an idea
that
we're going to do.
And don't forget, I mean, every team that's out there, I know you guys have got a place that you go that you're like, man, the world really needs to see what this is, or we know we've got a good team. You know, people should see how we do things. You know, give us a contact, you know, from the website, from our telephone number, you know, and you can, you know, get with us, and we'll bring the Ghost Diaries cameras to you and set up, and we'll investigate alongside you and
learn from each other.
Learn from each other.
Hi, I'm Jason Schlimmer from the Wabash Paranormal Investigation and Research Group. Today we're here. I'd like to talk about one of our favorite sites to investigate. It's one we've actually been able to label haunted. The site is the Indiana Woodcarvers Club in Converse, Indiana. The Woodcarvers Club in Converse, Indiana itself, the building has a long history. Some pieces of the history include being the meeting place for the Indiana Order of the Oddfellows. And then later it was sold and bought by the Woodcarvers Club themselves. The Woodcarvers have a lot of abilities to be able to make amazing things from various pieces of wood, whether it be carving caricatures of individuals, just various forms of different things they can make out of the wood. But we've been blessed with the opportunity to investigate it probably 3 to 4 times, and every time we've got great evidence out there, but each time it gets better and better. Matter of fact, right now we'd like to share one of our Class A EVP clips with you. But the EVP clip itself is just a small fragment of the different forms of evidence that we've been able to acquire out of the Woodcarvers building. A lot of it a couple good pieces I haven't got transferred to DVD yet, but I would highly recommend to any group that enjoys the investigation or like the evidence end of it to at least investigate the Woodcarvers Club, because every group that I've known to go in there and investigate, I've come out with lots of different forms of evidence themselves and had just a really enjoyable time. It's a great experience, and it's the only site that we've ever investigated that we can actually label haunted.
Hi, this is Chris Ratliff from Paranormal Ghost Research at Indiana. We've been approximately running for about 2 years under the PGRIN name. Previously, before that, we were running underneath PGR, and that stood for Paranormal Ghost Researchers. It was originally designed and set up by Mike Randerhan and Wes Kaplan, and since I have taken over the group back in '06, they've started a different group, third-party unbiased analysis review group, and we've been going pretty much same as they had it. Big difference was they were more interactive. We focused more towards the scientific, trying to come up with alternative reasoning and answers towards things. Big thing with us lately has been a lot of private residences, but a lot of general local stuff. For instance, one of the things that I wanted to share with you guys today is a lot of the stuff that goes on right around where we live in. We're located in Danville, Indiana, and there's a lot of historical spots, a lot of things that go on that not a lot of people realize or understand that goes on out in that area. There's a number of times where we've actually gone just under a legend or somebody just saying, you know, hey, this exists. No pictures, nothing as far as proof or evidence, and we've managed to be able to find something out there. For instance, lots of shadows, lots of mists, unexplained objects being seen in camera that's not explained with a visual eye, and a few sounds that go along with those. One of the things, for instance, a few years ago, a little girl who fell off one of the embankments at the park there in Danville. Fell down, broke her neck there in the creek bed. Since then, the park has, of course, changed. Right by that area, there's now a nice big children's playscape that's there, and we had been getting reports. Swing sets going on, you know, as if somebody's swinging by themselves. Number of eerie sounds, number of eerie visuals. We went down there more as a practice investigation than a regular investigation, and we ended up getting a little bit more than what we had anticipated for. Minus a few actual temperature anomalies and some environmental anomalies. During the process of the video recording, we ended up having a few unexplained visuals where you would actually see kind of what looked like a digital rendering that the digital camera had messed up. Problem is that rendering was in the form of a humanoid type shape, and all the way around it, picture was perfect. There wasn't any problems with it. And you can actually see that where it kind of walks back and forth a couple of times. At one time, it almost stops as if to look at us as we were recording, kind of point to where the incident had actually occurred. And it went like that pretty much through the course of the investigation. Wasn't a whole lot. We did get a couple of the swing sets swinging back and forth by themselves, and they would stop if you tried to interact. It was just the swing set would come down and just immediately stop. And then at the very end, pretty much right as we were packing up, we were like seconds from turning the video recorder off. We actually got an EVP of what sounded like a little girl saying hello. Well, went through the evidence review, and of course we logged everything down and got to that EVP, and of course took our group kind of back by surprise, you know, because we hadn't heard anything else but that, and of course it happened right as we were shutting everything off. And so it turns out that some of the people who I grew up with and everything happened to be real close friends of this girl. And upon hearing this voice, this EVP, a lot of the people actually sat back in shock and regard and said, "That's her." We actually took a clip from one of her birthday parties, compared the voice on it. It's the same waveform, it's the same wave line, all of that. And so it's not proof, but it's very good evidence to go along with it. So.
Hi, I'm Kenny Wilson. I'm from Hoosier Paranormal, and I've been with the group since they started in 2005, and we've had a number of investigations, but one of my favorite investigations was actually right after the story in early 2006, probably a couple weeks after the story in. We had a lady that I actually work with, and she was telling me about some things that was going on, in her farmhouse. Probably a early 20th century farmhouse that she lived in as a kid, and she grew up in that house growing up. And well, her parents decided to sell the farmhouse, and they moved away. Well, as an adult, she grew up and got married, and she ended up buying the farmhouse back. And she was telling me about some things going on there that I found pretty interesting, and so I got the group together and went over to Greensburg. Her name's Carl. I'll just tell her first name. But she was telling me about some things going on in the barn. A lot of flies, tons of flies in the barn, and would just show up. And the same day that the flies showed up, a picture that had been hanging on the wall for a long time just decided to fly off the wall. Things like she being grabbed while she's sleeping, and she at one time told me that a door, it's a real old house, so they had this door that was hanging at the base of the steps. It just flew off the hinges one night and almost hit their little girl. But a number of things like that. So we decided to go over to Greensburg and check it out, and we spent a number of hours there. Actually, we went there twice, but we had a few things happen there, you know, like EVPs. We captured actually one EVP, and which we named our newsletter after, and then we had a video that we captured there in the living room of something coming out of the wall. So if you want to check those out, we'll play those for you. Well, the video and the audio is pretty neat, but we did name our newsletter after the sound that we thought we heard from the EVP. And as far as debunking, I don't remember really debunking anything. It was very cold that night, so whatever we captured on video, we don't think it was an insect because it was very cold and snowy, which is another reason why we didn't investigate the barn. So. But that's about all we got for that investigation. Pretty good investigation.
Hi, I'm Robin Coder.
Ed Woolery.
And Becky French, and we are Southern Indiana Ghost Hunters Team, also known as SITE. We reside in Louisville and Southern Indiana. Our home base is Jeffersonville, Indiana. And we formed the group, be 2 years, April. Most of us are from former groups in different areas. And then we've also brought in new members. What we're here today is to talk about our favorite area that we like to ghost hunt. It is a historic home. Unfortunately, I can't give you the name of the place or the location, but it is a home built back in the 1800s. It was first built as a mill, and to this day, there has been apparitions seen of the gentleman and his wife that built the place. And also, we have a picture of a gentleman that was killed there, a groundskeeper that was killed there around 10 years ago. And we got an amazing picture of him. He evidently still thinks he needs to take care of the place. And so we will share some of that with you also.
One particular investigation, we were upstairs in one of the formal rooms, and we had a battery, and we have a photo of it, a battery with some wires going up to it. And it's a funny looking conglomeration, but we decided to see, if the spirits could draw some energy off the battery. We also had a tape recorder and a small fan on the battery for, to pick up EVPs, and the fan was for some white noise. And while we were in the room, we all took our little corner. The fan would shut off and turn itself on periodically. So did the tape recorder. And we checked the batteries and everything, and it wasn't, there were new batteries, everything, and it was just for some reason, the fan would shut off, and it would be at full speed, and it would come back on.
And this was also done a couple times. We asked it to turn itself off and turn itself on, and it did upon command a few times. So, and that went on like 45 minutes, and there were probably 7 or 8 of us just sitting around watching that do it. And and we feel that this was John, the original owner of the house, that was doing this. We also have 2 pictures where I am using dowsing rods, and the one picture you'll see a very bright spot on it, and it's the flash of my camera, but in front of that you'll see a very faint form in front of me. And this was also the same night, and we think maybe this could be John. We were bonding with him through the rods. Also, you'll see another picture of me holding the rods, and there is like a bolt of light coming off of it. That we have not been able to explain, other than we just feel there's energy in that room. We've known previous owners before the house became abandoned, and have spoken to them, and this room was very active. The girl that room had made claims of being actually tossed out of her bed. Also, there was a story that there was a very loud bang, like a gunshot, which upon investigation, when they went up there and their windows were closed, they did find a hole in the wall that it was like a gunshot. Now, we also have gotten a gunshot sound the same night we worked with the battery. And we were talking. The one girl said, if anybody has anything to say, come forward. And at that moment, we picked up EVP of a gunshot that tested. That takes us back to the apparition that you see walking outside. This was a gentleman that was shot there, like I said, around 10 years ago. He didn't die at the property, but evidently he has come back to keep taking care of it. And like I said, we do know he was shot, and we've had the picture verified by his son. That's who it is. And as far as I know, he's still there, and we would love to go back and try to get with him again. We did test also the caliber, what we thought the caliber of the gun was, and we've narrowed it down to 2, and we did find out that it does match one of the sounds does match the gun that he was shot with.
And believe me, if they would have heard that sound the night of the investigation, they would have jumped out of the bridges.
Yeah.
And of course, we didn't hear it. It was on the recorder afterwards. That made it even more interesting.
Yeah.
And you could hear the woods in the background echoing, so it was a very loud bam, 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 bam.
It was a residual.
Residual, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing was, there was like 4 recorders in the room at that time, all going, but only one picked it up.
And that's makes it even more interesting. You would imagine that all the recorders would have picked it up at the same time, but they didn't.
Now, there's also been one of our former members, when they first heard about this house, her and her husband had gone out there and one night, and she had looked up at the window and saw a man in a stovetop hat dancing with a lady up in this same room. And of course, she didn't know the history of the place at that time. So then we have also heard that the policeman in that area had taken a video. And in the same area that you see the apparition, there was a video of another apparition with a man with a stovetop hat on, stovepipe hat. So we assume it was John again, and who's still hanging around there. But there's always been activity in that house, and of course it's very popular with people. They try to go in and see things, and a lot of them have gone out of their running. But
we have to say it is abandoned. It's not a residential.
Right. Yeah. But it's a very interesting house.
They have a family cemetery down the street from this house, and we've been there and got some very interesting, orbs aren't anything you don't really brag about, but we've gotten some interesting ones, to say the least. I took some pictures sitting in the cemetery in one direction, and my camera would just be full of orbs, where if I just turned a little bit and took a picture, there'd be nothing. And you would think that if I could get them in one direction, I could get them in another, but it was real strange. They were just all in one little section.
And one of our other pictures, it's a picture of, you'll see a lot of wood. It's like a shed. It's right off the back of the house. And you'll see orbs in there, but you'll see haze. And at the top in the right-hand corner, what we picked out was like somebody was hiding up in there, and you can see the top of their head, like they're hiding, just ducking down, hoping we don't see them. We were told that by a shaman that we work with, that he had checked the picture, and he says that what he sees in it are Indians. So we don't have any history of that, but surely there were definitely Indians in that area. But we have not gotten anything connected with that property per se. The cemetery has a lot of the family down in there, and we did get one picture, and unfortunately we didn't bring that along. It's a face over the top of a wall. There's a brick, not a brick wall, but a stone wall that goes around the cemetery. and just above it there is a face looking over it. And like I said, unfortunately, I failed to get that one on the disc. So, but it's a very interesting picture. So we've had a lot of activity there. We've also heard stories of, we have not witnessed ourselves, that this gentleman, the groundskeeper, seems to drive a phantom car. It has been seen on the road between the cemetery and the house, and people see headlights coming at them, and the next thing you know, here's a car coming, but then it just disappears. So unfortunately, we have not got to witness that yet. We would like to
cool.
someday, but so far that has not happened.
I'm Jason Schlemmer from the Wabash Paranormal Investigation Research Group. A site that I'd like to discuss that we actually investigated is a private business. And that night we were trying, us and Crossroads Paranormal actually did a joint investigation the night we investigated this private business. And we were trying different tests on different theories and trying out different things to see how they worked. And one thing I did a test on that night was the black and white 35mm film to see how it does during investigation. I brought 2 pictures along with me. The first picture that I'd like to share is a sample of how the black and white film was coming through and how it makes everything appear. If you look at the first picture, the black and white film shows the shadowing and how the location looks before we get the positive photo. The second photo you will see is a positive photo of an early stage of manifestation of an apparition along the guardrail itself. And after running different tests and computer imaging on the black and white film, it does an amazing job for a 35mm camera. And we were really impressed. It costs a little bit more to buy the black and white film, but I would highly recommend using it over normal 400 or 800 speed. Just to share a little bit of info with you about the Wabash Paranormal Investigation Research Group, we were formed in 2002. Some of the basic reasons for forming, from doing research and studies in the paranormal field for many years, I noticed on the internet there's a lot of things out there, whether it be, I'm not going to mention group names, a lot of it was basically individual amateurs charging people for investigations, showing false evidence, showing pictures of dust in people's homes and charging them money and saying it's haunted. And the basic thing, I wanted to get many individuals together with the same interest and love for the paranormal field and say, let's do this for free. We do it because we enjoy it, and do as much as we can to help the community, help educate properly, and do what we can, because some of the main basic principles that were formed on was to gather as many individuals as possible together as interested in the paranormal, to do our part with our knowledge and experience in the field to be a good asset to the paranormal field, also to help our local community, also network with other paranormal groups, whether it be in the state, nation, the world, and just share evidence, stay connected with each other, unify the field to the point to where all of our evidence is in one big collection, and we help each other out, we help disprove things, we help take the paranormal field itself in new directions if we can, and just to basically do what we can for what we believe in and do the best that we can.
Hi, I'm Angie. I am the Public Relations Manager and a Case Manager for IAE. We are based out of Howard and Miami County, up towards northern Indiana. This is Curtis and Kenny. They are our co-founders. We've been investigating for about 5 years now, and we brought evidence of 2 locations. The first one we'll talk about is Olive Branch in Matthews, Indiana. Olive Branch is the history behind it, legend, whatever you want to call it, is that you're supposed to hear people talking. Curtis, you know more about the history.
You hear people talking. Actually, it was supposed to be a part of Elizabethtown, which isn't there anymore. But there is another cemetery that's the Elizabethtown Cemetery. But Olive Branch is a little better known for being haunted or having paranormal activity going on. There is the Elizabethtown sign, which supposedly you see the white lady walk by. We finally found the sign, but we've never found anything there. But at the cemetery, we've been back 3 or 4 times at least, and we found a few things, interesting things. A few things.
We have a picture from our second trip there that shows our oldest son facing kind of to the side, and standing in front of him, it looks to be an older gentleman, full beard, long coat and hat. Does not describe anybody that was with us on that particular investigation. We also have a video from an investigation before that has picked up smoke going across the lens of the camera, and also picked up an EVP, and the best that we can make out from the EVP is telling us to get out. It's pretty wispy but really thick. It just kind of just rolls in for a couple of seconds, for about a minute on the video, and then just disappears. And it doesn't show it anywhere else in any of our other evidence. So we thought that to be very interesting. And it was a clear night. For the time of year, it was pretty warm. It was probably about 60 degrees, I believe, out at that time of the evening.
Out that way. Honey, do you want the light off on the camcorder or on? Yeah, it's on. Isn't it? Yeah. What don't you take pictures of, Mom? This way, that way, and the sign. Just set it on that little table. What? Curtis, when you turn it on, why don't you say Olive Branch Cemetery, September 3rd.
Olive Branch Cemetery,
Camera. What?
Hey, Mark.
You give me.
Yeah, it just dropped like 3 degrees.
Kenny, it takes that thing a couple minutes to regulate. What did she give me? Oh, her camera.
No, it wasn't 72.
Your light. You guys took both flashlights? There's another one in the car. Where? And the spotlight? Put it in the box. Don't put my one over here and waste it. Yeah, because normally I see it for a couple seconds. Shut it out.
as you can see from the evidence that we brought, Olive Range has some interesting things that we found, and we've gone back several times, and we're planning to go back again this year. So the next place that we brought evidence from is Hopewell Cemetery in Howard County. We found the cemetery from investigating a house that's about a quarter of a mile south of the cemetery. And I guess at one time it was all church and cemetery together many years ago. And the house, we have evidence of activity in the house, but the owner does not appreciate people investigating there. So we decided to check into the cemetery since it was public access. And the picture shows a church in the background, and we've gone back and taken pictures of all the different views, and there's no way that any of the buildings within a mile radius would pick up from the picture. On a closer investigation of the picture, it also looks to be somebody standing in the doorway of this building. So we thought that very interesting, and we've also gone back there several times, daytime, nighttime, to see what else we might pick up from that location.
Well, in the picture, it looks like the church is like right behind the cemetery, and there is, heading east, there is no buildings in that area, and pretty much the cemetery, it hasn't been used. Nobody's been buried there since the early 1900s, so it's pretty much overgrown. Just every once in a while somebody will come out and like cut a path through it, and but other than that, there's really no buildings near it other than the old house heading to the south of it.